Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today, we're going to be talking about a Southern Baptist church going to battle against the Southern Baptist Convention over Johnny Hunt. This is a very exciting development in the Southern Baptist world because a church is finally challenging the Southern Baptist Convention on the premise of its newfound adoption of the MeToo movement. They are going to battle on the premise of the MeToo movement, and you love to see that. And the church in question is Highland Park Baptist Church. This is a church in Florida. They recently had Johnny Hunt speak, and for that crime, they were snitched on to the Credentials Committee by one Todd Benkirk, who's been a character in the past regarding this issue in the Southern Baptist Convention. He's definitely one of the liberal bad guys. He's a writer for SBC Voices, if I recall. And he also has some hands in Karengate as well. So we're going to talk about the letter that they sent to the Credentials Committee and also published online. But first, Evangelical Dark Web is a Christian news gathering and commentary ministry. So the least you can do to help us out is drop a like and also subscribe to the channel. Those are the best things you can do. But otherwise, if you want to support this ministry, we have a Patreon-like system over at evangelicaldarkweb.org. In addition to a free newsletter, you get more access to content behind the scenes, as well as a greater ability to influence the research that Evangelical Dark Web does. So let's get on to that letter by Highland Park Baptist Church. So this is the article. This was about February 2nd is when the churches two churches, I believe, were reported to the Credentials Committee over Johnny Hunt being invited to speak there. And this has to do with the fact that Johnny Hunt was pretty much named in the Guidepost Solutions report, the Sex Abuse Task Force report. And in that report, he was not accused of sex abuse. He was accused of sexual assault. But I said at the time that nothing in the Sex Abuse Task Force report would hold up in court. And that's because of how dubious the details are. Obviously, I think there's enough information there, and I believe there's acknowledgement on all sides that Johnny Hunt did sin, but there's a difference between having an inappropriate moment with another woman who's not your wife and sexually assaulting said woman. There's a difference between that, and that's basically what the two sides of this issue are. So that's the story, and they got an inquiry letter, and here is their response to it. It is addressed to the Credentials Committee of the Southern Baptist Convention. Now, in case you were unaware, the Southern Baptist Convention has a Credentials Committee, which was created to handle the disfellowshipping process of a Southern Baptist church. The Southern Baptist Convention cannot exercise authority via church polity over another entity, but they do have the ability to disfellowship a church, and that's the most they can really do legally. And this is the response, and it came out yesterday, or the other day, because it's the 17th now. So here it says, and it's to the Credentials Committee. It also copies Tommy Green, Executive Director of Florida Baptist Convention, and Troy Varnum, Associate Ministry of the Missionary of the Northwest Coast Baptist Association. So you have the state convention guy on the email, and you also have the local convention guy, because Southern Baptist churches aren't just affiliated with the national convention; they're also affiliated generally with a state and local convention. So with that said, Dear SBC Credentials Committee, we write today in response to your letter dated February 1st, 2022. We can only assume 2022 was an error since we received the letter by email on February 1st, 2023. So I guess the Baptist Press article came out after the Credentials Committee made a formal inquiry. Thank you. First, I do want to point out the fact that they're pointing out the typo is probably a little bit of sass. Like they are very conscious of how they sound, and the tone that they're trying to project in this letter is one of "we don't submit to you." That's the general tone of this letter, and I do love this letter. Even though I don't like Johnny Hunt, I want to make that clear. If I were to make a top 10 list of people who have put the Southern Baptist Convention in the position that it's in for the worse, Johnny Hunt would be on that list. I just want to be clear about that. So Johnny Hunt isn't exactly a good guy. First, thank you for your service to Southern Baptists, specifically in the matters of addressing sexual abuse. Highland Park Baptist Church joins you in your abhorrence of the evil of sexual abuse. Our church policies and procedures reflect our commitment to provide a safe environment for children and vulnerable populations. We have enjoyed an 80-year history of fellowship and cooperation with our local association, the Florida Baptist Convention, and the Southern Baptist Convention. After you sent a letter of inquiry to Highland Park Baptist Church, we were notified that your Credentials Committee was also sent copies to the Florida Baptist Convention and our local association, the Northwest Coast Baptist Association. In light of your letter, we checked with both the Florida Baptist Convention and the Northwest Coast Baptist Association, and each confirmed that Highland Park Baptist Church remains a church in good standing and fellowship. So what appears to have happened was that the Credentials Committee is also trying to get them kicked out of, or at least, make this an issue with their state and local conventions. They're trying to interfere with their association with these voluntary associations that this Southern Baptist Church has with other Baptist organizations and conventions. So that's something to point out. That is a little, mischievous, if I want to put it mildly. So, interesting, that's where they start off in their rebuttal. And obviously they say that they abhor sex abuse, because who doesn't in the church world? While we do not agree with the overreaching implications of your recent letter, it is in the spirit of cooperation and our commitment to global missions that we offer this brief response. And it's not the briefest response, but, it could be briefer. In your letter, you reference both the 2021 SBC resolution regarding sexual abuse and an SBC bylaw pertaining to churches and sexual abuse. You stated that the resolution contends that a person who has committed sexual abuse should be permanently disqualified from ministry. Without debating the merits of that resolution, it is worth reminding the committee that the resolutions, by their form, are not governing documents. By their very content, the resolutions do not speak for the Southern Baptist Convention on the whole, as the precise phrase of your committee cited states. This was merely the sentiment of the majority of the messengers of the Southern Baptist Convention meeting in Nashville, Tennessee, June 15 to 16, 2021. So there's a resolution that said anyone who has ever committed sexual abuse is permanently disqualified from ministry. This resolution, fun fact, did not make any reference to whether someone was pre-conversion or post-conversion. It didn't make any reference to any of that. It was pretty sloppily worded. And I didn't like that resolution, but I generally don't like any Southern Baptist resolution. They're generally all bad. Moreover, there is no proof whatsoever that our guest speaker has committed sexual abuse. The Bible states in Proverbs 18:17, the first to plead his case seems right until his neighbor comes to question him. We are not aware of any evidence, any proof, or any legal charges against our guest speaker. This remains an anonymous accusation or allegation regardless of the conclusion of one investigatory body. It falls short of a legal accusation. So I want to but let's talk about a couple things here. One, we are talking about Johnny Hunt. Two, Johnny Hunt was not accused of sexual abuse. The report can call that sexual abuse, but what he is, if you describe what Johnny Hunt did according to the Sex Abuse Task Force report, it was sexual assault at most, not abuse. The other married woman who seemed to have been flirting with him, even going by the report standard, was not sexually abused. You know, sexual abuse is talking about children here, not grown adults. The other thing is they're using the Bible to make a case that due process still exists. So not only are they right in the statement of fact that Johnny Hunt, isn't even accused of sexual abuse. He's not accused of sexual abuse. They also make a case. They also say that the first to plead his case seems right until his neighbor comes to question him. That means, cross-examination. That means due process. Furthermore, we as a church believe the credibility of Guidepost as an investigatory body to render moral verdicts that are consistent with biblical categories and definitions regarding sexual behavior to be highly questionable. Guidepost as an organization advocates for and celebrates sexual sin directly in violation of the biblical ethic our church family firmly holds to. Boom. Boom roasted. They threw Guidepost Solutions under the bus, and rightfully so. An organization that celebrates homosexuality has zero credibility in condemning child sex abuse. They have zero credibility in doing that. Just fact. They go on to say, we believe the standard of credible accusation to be troublingly ambiguous, far below biblical standards of considering evidence against a spiritual leader, and exceedingly dangerous. Because again, there is no definition of credible accusation. A credible accusation is if it's said by someone that you want to believe, and it is an accusation made against someone you want to believe that it is against. There is no real standard for what is a credible accusation against a, the Julie Roy standard is it a woman against a man? And is that man in position of power that we can really tear him down? That's the MeToo movement. That is the Julie Roy's, Rachel Den Hollander standard of whether an allegation is credible or not. Because, again, they've considered Jennifer Lyell an abuse victim. She wasn't. She was an adulteress. While we disagree with most of your conclusions, we do agree with you that your committee has no ecclesiastical authority over our autonomous congregation. So I guess the Credentials Committee's inquiry maintained the whole Baptist polity thing, which is a facade, by the way. Baptist churches aren't really sovereign over the Southern Baptist Convention. The messengers who go to the convention aren't really sovereign over the convention. They don't really have any real power to make a change in the convention. The convention is grossly inefficient and here's a truth bomb for you. The Southern Baptist Convention, at the convention, does not operate in a way that's abhorrent to Baptist congregational polity. The messengers have zero power. They can elect the president, and they can vote on whether to accept the committee of nominations. Those are really the only power that the messengers have. They can't even get the Southern Baptist Convention to audit itself. They have no authority. So they're attacking, they've attacked the MeToo movement, is really what they've attacked here. They've also defended Johnny Hunt, and they've attacked Guidepost Solutions. So far, really good. This is really good. This is a very good response. Even though, I wouldn't have Johnny Hunt speak at a church. I wouldn't do that. But I would also write a letter similar to this. That's what I would do. Further, we agree with SBC bylaw 8C5, part of that bylaw that created your committee, as it explicitly states that your committee shall never attempt to exercise any authority over a church through an investigation or other process that would violate Article 4 of the Constitution. You also mentioned the SBC bylaws regarding a church acting consistent with the convention's beliefs regarding sexual abuse. However, since A, no duly authorized body recognized by our church has proved Pastor Hunt guilty of having committed sexual abuse, and B, your committee by bylaw has no authority to conduct an investigation and draw any such conclusion in itself, and C, no governing document of the SBC states that having a guest speaker who has been credibly accused by an independent third-party investigation is grounds to be deemed out of cooperation. We find the essence of your letter problematic. So obviously they're quoting the letter that they sent back to them. Again, Johnny Hunt was not accused of sexual abuse in the investigation. Part of this whole Me Too movement in the Southern Baptist Convention is broadening the definition of sexual abuse to categories that are not sexual abuse, that are not abuse. And obviously when we get into bylaws, the Credentials Committee is out kicking its coverage here. They don't have the authority to do anything that they say. And again, being credibly accused is not exactly a standard that merits being deemed out of cooperation. They nail that. Your letter asks us to provide information to prove how your church's recent decision to have Pastor Hunt speak can be considered consistent with the convention's belief regarding sexual abuse. While this letter does that clearly, we reject wholesale the unbiblical standard suggested here, that we are being asked to give evidence of our innocence of violating the parameters of cooperation with the SBC. Guilty until proven innocent is an ungodly and unbiblical standard. This flawed standard has been rejected by our Lord, should be rejected by biblically minded Southern Baptists, and is firmly rejected by Highland Park Baptist Church. So that this is their final paragraph here. Can't read that last part. Finally, as we can actually, let's see if I can do this. Okay, yeah, we got a whole paragraph here. Okay. We also feel compelled to share our concerns about one very troubling part of this inquiry process. It does not seem logical to us that Southern Baptists, when they approved a revised bylaw 8 at the 2019 annual meeting, envisioned or would have knowingly approved a process whereby one activist individual, who was also appointed by the current president of the SBC to the Abuse Reform Implementation Task Force, could submit a church for inquiry, leak that submission to the secular press, thereby place that church in a secular and denominational headlines before that church can be informed. That is talking about Todd Benkirk going to the pagan media to basically snitch on a church. And they're right. Obviously, to some degree, you can argue that that's a conflict of interest because he's not an independent actor. He's someone that has no business being on that committee that he was named to, or that task force that he was named to. But nonetheless, this is clearly an activist. Todd Benkirk is a liberal activist in the Southern Baptist Convention. Finally, it concludes, as we continue to discuss this matter with our own counsel and pursuant of all our legal resources, it would be helpful to all potential parties involved if you would provide clarity in writing of the following question. Is the Credentials Committee, which is a duly elected committee of the Southern Baptist Convention, which is a Georgia cooperation, firmly and officially claiming in writing to the entire SBC affiliated congregation that when we hosted Pastor Johnny Hunt, we hosted a speaker who has committed sexual abuse. Thank you for your anticipated reply. So this last part is fascinating. It's bait. That's bait. And what is it bait for? It's bait for a libel lawsuit. They are baiting them for libel. They're mentioning that the Southern Baptist Convention is a Georgia corporation. They're tying the Credentials Committee to the Southern Baptist Convention so that, and then they're making them say it out loud. Are you accusing us of something that is grossly untrue? Because like I said, Johnny Hunt is not actually accused of committing sexual abuse. He was accused of committing sexual assault. There's a difference. It wasn't a child. It wasn't a continued course of conduct over the course of several years. What they're accusing him of is one incident, not abuse. So the ball is now in the Southern Baptist Convention's court. Are they going to go there? Because Highland Park Baptist Church, they went there. They drew blood here. They attacked the MeToo movement in the Southern Baptist Convention, the Rachel Denhollander movement, on the premise of the issue. And if Johnny Hunt is the reason why we get to have this debate, we're finally having this debate because you know who didn't want to have this debate? Tom Askell. Tom Askell did not want to have this debate. But we're going to be forced to have this debate because of Johnny Hunt. So be it. So be it. So this is a very positive development for the Southern Baptist Convention, and you love to see that. So anyway, my name's Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. If you like the content, let me know what you think about what I think, and I will catch you on the next one.